That final scene. That is something I did not expect. That was, left field. So, apparently, Suwa has gotten a letter as well. Okay, that, I should have expected it, but, yo, that explains a lot about the interactions between Suwa, Kakeru, and also Naho. That explains a lot now that I think about it, and why Suwa kind of knows what's going to happen, and how he knows how he can help her out, and all that, help out Naho. I really like that, but also, it's kind of sad in a way, because that would mean that if Suwa did get a letter, okay? We don't know necessarily if everybody got a letter, but if Suwa got a letter, that would mean that his future self sent himself a letter. And he knows about probably what his future self is to Naho. For instance, you know, it looks like they're married, they have a child and all that, and they're very close. And because of this, you know, you have it to where he's actually talking to his old self like, hey, I need you to back off and let Kakeru and Naho get together. And that has to be something very hard to do. I can't imagine how hard it must be to do something like that, to message yourself and say something like that, because, I mean, to be able to willingly kind of like break up with someone you love like that and try to think for the better of someone else, it's a difficult thing. It really is. I mean, it's a noble thing. I mean, he's doing that to save Kakeru's life, and I respect that. It's something normally people wouldn't do, to go that far. And I'm glad to see Suwa as such a very good character. He has a very pure heart to do something like that, to send himself a letter and then try to give up his possible relationship with Naho for Kakeru. Because, I mean, look, to see how he's willing to let that go, and then he's willing to help out Kakeru in her relationship, I respect that. So, let's talk about the scene overall, what this episode really meant. So, Naho confronts Kakeru about his mother, talks about his mother, and, like, the reason what happened to his mother, how his mother died. And we get clarification that his mother committed suicide. She died thanks to committing suicide, and we found out that Kakeru's mother had some form of mental problem. She completely depended on Kakeru to always be there. Like, she could not be without him. That every time, you know, he was gone, she was probably worrying and stuff, and when he was finally there, she was completely fine. And when one day he was taking too long, and she was nervous because she was probably waiting for him to come to the hospital, she took her life because she couldn't deal with it anymore. And that instantly, I'm like, yo, it's a very mature theme this, you know, series is trying to, you know, display. It's a mature theme. Kakeru wanting to end his life eventually, how his mother ended his life. It's a mature theme, and I respect the series for going down that route. But Kakeru, the whole reason why his mother died, it really is Naho's fault. I mean, she didn't know, and I mean, granted, you can't really blame someone if they were completely unaware. It's like just saying you're at fault for, you know, stubbing your toe and then you break an entire wall of China, like ancient, you know, antique China. It just, you can't, you know, be responsible for that. Accidents happen, and sometimes you just can't determine what's going to happen next. You just don't know. You can't determine what will happen, and I mean, I know that's not the best analogy what I said, but still, I mean, it's sad because if you do look at it objectively, Naho is kind of responsible. Everybody else is responsible for Kakeru's mother's death, but at the same time, you can't really blame them as well. And that's just something that's a very difficult thing to look at. I mean, there's really not much you really can say about that. I mean, Kakeru, I don't think you should place the blame on himself, because it's not his fault. I mean, the man, to be point blank, okay? I know he loves his mom. He really cares for her. And I mean, I respect that. I really, really respect that. I think everybody respects him for that. But the man, he's his own person as well. He's his own human being, his own life, okay? And it sounds cruel what I'm going to say, but I mean, sometimes you need to live your life for yourself sometimes instead of always for others. It's a moral lesson. It can be a dark way to look at, but sometimes you need to live your life your way. And he can't always determine what will happen next or what could possibly happen next. I mean, the man didn't even realize his mother would go that far. He thought he was just going to come back and say sorry, but it went further than he expected. And because of this, he blames himself. He blames himself because he thinks he is the cause of his mother's death. If he would have been there, she wouldn't have died because she's so dependent on him. And Naho and everybody else, they feel bad. They regret what they did because if they didn't ask him to come to school, she would have been alive. But then you have to factor in that when would it happen again? I mean, if someone's going to do that, okay? I mean, point blank. If someone's going to go that far and do something like that, there's going to be a time when maybe Kakeru could be stuck in traffic and you can't get back or something to a very important event, and then his mom does it then. I mean, it's just, there's not really much you can do about that. I mean, you can't really avoid something like that if the person is wanting to, you know, do something like that, if they're that far gone with their mind. So, I gotta say, the episode is a very mature outlook on the topic, and I don't know, this is gonna be a very controversial episode. It definitely is. I really am wondering exactly how people are going to view this episode. I personally enjoyed it. I like the deeper and darker themes when it comes to anime or any type of literature, and this is one of those type of times to where the theme is very dark and open to interpretation. I mean, you have different ways to interpret it and how you can view the entire thing. You can view it as Kakeru's fault, you can view it as, you know, Naho's fault, you can view it as nobody's fault. It's different ways you look at it, and I wonder exactly how the writer is going to tackle this entire issue with this drama, because it's not something you could just sweep under the rug like normal, you know, high school drama. It's just not something you can easily negate. You just can't do that. So the way this has got to be handled, it's got to be handled in a mature fashion, and I can't wait to see how it is handled. Another scene I need to talk about is how the girl, one of the girls that are, you know, very popular, I forgot her freaking name because that's how much I dislike her character, and that's causing conflict. She tried to once again start shit with Naho and make it to where Kakeru and Naho didn't have a really romantic relationship in this episode. And my god, that woman, I cannot stand that character at all. The way she's acting, she could have been the cause of Kakeru killing himself. Like, she could have, legit. I mean, she wouldn't have known. Once again, goes back to the topic of what I just said. But still, I mean, just seeing that scene, I was just so mad. I'm like, why? Why are you so fucking salty? You would ruin someone else's relationships with someone. You have to be mad salty. It's probably not going to be the last time we're going to see of her character. I'm willing to bet it isn't. But I'm glad to see how Naho and Kakeru, they managed to get around that drama, and they still had their little date scene to where they had the fireworks display. So yes, episode overall, it was a wonderful episode. I can't wait to see where it's going to go next week. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please be safe. Chibi out.